Many thanks for joining us. I am Rita Omodia. On our first story here, President Muhammadu Buhari has inaugurated the Committee on Tripartite National Minimum Wage. Government set up the committee to find possible ways of an upward review of worker salary as proposed by the Nigerian Labour Congress. President Buhari, who inaugurated the committee at the council chambers of the Presidential Villa, Abuja, urged members of the Wage Committee to ensure that the outcome of all the deliberations is consensual and generally acceptable. Our correspondent Nabuchi Okin Nabuchi sent in the report.
The committee was part of recommendations of a technical committee set up by government in May last year to see ways of increasing worker salaries to cushion the impacts of full removal of fuel subsidy, which caused inflation in the country. President Muhammadu Buhari, who acknowledged that the current minimum wage instrument approved by the late Umaru Yar'Adua's administration in 2009 has since expired, noted that there is need for a review, which led to the setting up of the Minimum Wage Committee. The president cited various labor international laws and resolutions, saying an improved wage will improve well-being of Nigerian workers.
Considering the scope of the membership of this new National Minimum Wage Committee, we can see that it is encompassing all stakeholders. My hope is that the outcome of the deliberations of the committee would be consensual and generally acceptable. I therefore urge you to amicably consider the issue of a national minimum wage and all matters that are ancillary to it with thoroughness and concern.
The committee, headed by former Minister of Housing and Urban Development Amal Pepple, comprises representatives of government, both federal and state, private sector players, as well as leaders of various labor unions in the country. Minister of Labour and Employment Chris Ngige and the committee's chairman says the committee will carry out the deliberations in line with the International Labour Organization ILO standards of collective bargaining and social welfare.
Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, so that we do a consensual bargaining and distill an agreement, what we call in labor parlance collective bargaining agreement, CBA. And once that CBA is agreed on, that CBA means this is the amount, this is the minimum. And from that minimum, you go on a sliding scale.
And I was addressing, this issue has been a very sensitive one. The whole country, all Nigerians. I told our committee members that all of us should come to the assignment, to the table, with an open mind and with a lot of commitment.
The organized labor had proposed an upward review of the national minimum wage from the current 18,000 naira to 56,000 naira. While governors pledged support to the new wage drive in spite of their inability to pay workers in their states, the Nigeria Labour Congress says Labour's initial proposal may be further reviewed in view of the current economic challenges.
Quite pleased that Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari, consistent with all the promises he has and assurances he has given to the Nigerian people, have yet again today taken a step towards the evolution of a national minimum wage.
Recommendations made by the National Minimum Wage Committee will be drafted as an executive bill and forwarded to the National Assembly for consideration and passage into law.
In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari has directed release of the outstanding first 50% of the Paris Club refund to state governments. The president gave the directive at an emergency meeting between President Buhari and the state governors at the Presidential Villa, Abuja, on Monday. Addressing journalists after the emergency meeting, Chairman of the Progressives Governors, Rocha Sokorocha, said the disbursement will encourage payment of workers' salaries, which is a directive of the president to enable workers have a memorable Yuletide.
And President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The discussion centered on basically the end of year, and the President himself had expressed the need to make sure that every Nigerian, especially the workers, have a beautiful Christmas. and the issues of the outstanding Paris Club was discussed, and that was taken care of to make sure that the workers workers in the various states and everywhere in the country gets to celebrate the Christmas.
Kaduna State Governor, who gave a separate explanation on the spending of the former disbursement, said the expected fund may not offset the total amount owed workers in some states.
Okay, while the reconciliation process was going on, the President approved that 50% of the amount, provisional amounts, be paid to the states. And the payment started from last year. Okay? We still have balance 50%. Of the first 50% unpaid.
The governor said third tranche of the fund, which is expected to be paid before the end of the year, will go a long way to cushioning the impact of the economic challenges. The second tranche of the Paris Club refund was paid to the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory in July this year. And moving on, the federal government has appealed to the Nigerian media to continually support government's war against corruption in order to end the menace in the society. Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, made the call at the 68th General Assembly of the Broadcasting Organization Nigeria, held in Abuja Monday. Lai Mohammed decried non-commitment of the media and the fight, saying corruption would consume the country if the media does not join in the crusade against it.
Facing down the problem of corruption. As we have said times without number, this fight must not be seen as Buhari's fight alone. It must not be seen as the federal government's fight. It is our fight. If we fail to win by defeating corruption, it will simply overwhelm us as a nation.
According to the acting chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, corruption has reduced Nigeria to a laughingstock in the presence of a vibrant Nigerian media. While he laments difficulties in prosecuting corrupt journalists who have taken to the vice instead of exposing it, Magu urged journalists to be partners with security agencies in the fight against corruption.
Media can truly complement the fight against corruption. Let the truth be told. There is no way law enforcement agency can know about all cases of graft in the society. Journalists, as investigators, in their own right.
Organizers of the event urge media professionals to create richer and more universally acceptable content for broadcast, while highlighting key steps that can help in improving the industry if implemented.
I call for brave competition amongst media practitioners that will enhance professionalism, develop talent, and build capacity for the broadcast value chain and the media economy.
Nevertheless, the commitment of the membership to their collective interests, as well as your work in Nigerian broadcasting, remain very constant. Together, the regulator and licensees have an organic relationship to help the growth and survival of our industry.
And away from that, the Ministry of Budget and National Planning has assured that all the parameters used in drafting the country's 2018 budget are realized. The Minister of State National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, gave the assurance while addressing the Joint House of Representatives Committee on the 2018 to 2020 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework, MTEF, and Fiscal Strategy Paper, FSP, in National Assembly, Abuja. Ahmed said government is expected to generate 6.6 trillion naira revenue in 2018, as projected in the budget, representing a 30% increase in the 2017 projection.
We have projected an oil price production of 2.3 million barrels per day. This is so because the NNPC and its operating units have reported that they have currently installed capacity of 2.5 million barrels per day.
We're trying to reduce the use of cash, and would also improve or increase audit inspections in parastatals and agencies. The Accountant General was trying to, was working on a plan to introduce officers, revenue officers, to be stationed in various ministries, revenue generating ministries and parastatals, and hopefully that will also help towards realization of revenues.
Contributing, the Executive Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, Tunde Fowler, said the service generated 3.2 trillion naira in 10 months, representing 79.35% of its collection targets for 2017.
Also started and given out assessments to companies who have not filed returns but own properties. We have done this exercise and concluded in Abuja, Kaduna, and Lagos.
On the committee level, the chairman stated that the 2018 budget preparations suffer from inadequate consultations between the MDAs and various oversighting committees of the National Assembly. He consequently said that one can only hope and pray that it does not lead to delay in consideration and passage of the budget.
Expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper, which is a document which, by Fiscal Responsibility Act, mandated the executives that the federal government of Nigeria, with consultation with the government, to prepare the documents and lay it to the National Assembly, which means the two chambers of the National Assembly, the Senate and the House of Representatives. The document was laid on the 17th of October, and the Act also permits the National Assembly to make adjustments, if any, to the document before the final consideration.
More stories coming up after this break. Do stay with us.